Welcome to this episode of Mysterial Experiences, where we delve into the heart of mystery and the ethereal. Today we invite you on a voyage through shadowed realms of the unexplained. From spectral whispers to cosmic enigmas. Join us as we explore tales and phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, in a quest to uncover truths hidden in the fabric of the extraordinary. Prepare for a journey into the unknown, where each revelation is a step closer to unraveling the mysterial. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mysterial Experiences. As always, I'm your host, Josh Rutledge, and we have a guest with us today, Lynn Tincher. Lynn is a fellow podcaster, as well as an author and a bookstore owner, which is also interesting to me because it's something my wife and I are trying to do. And so, anyways, welcome to the show, Lynn.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I know that, I first met you or knew of you through a mutual friend, I think Keith Age,
Yes.
the rock and roll ghost hunter. But just want to, I think, talk to you about, because I believe you have some experiences that extend beyond the realm of ghosts or spirits. And so just wanted to maybe talk on some of those and really understand what those experiences have meant to you in your kind of personal journey, if you will.
Okay.
So I guess if I kick it off, I don't necessarily want to go with your earliest experience, but what is the experience that has meant the most to you, has shaped you the most as who you are today?
Sure. And it is probably one of my earliest experiences. I have what is known as Brugada syndrome, which is a rare genetic heart disease. It's one of the sudden arrhythmic death syndromes. When I was about 12, while I was sleeping, I passed away in my sleep in my bedroom. And when that happened, I remember leaving my body and was up above my body. And I remember floating up towards the ceiling, and I can look down on myself as I went through the ceiling, and I could still see myself. And I remember the first thought I had was, at least I'm going up. But I looked down, there was like some confusion I was going through, but I looked down and I could see my body. And honestly, it was like looking at maybe clothes or something. It was not like I was looking at me, because I
didn't recognize yourself.
Right. I knew that was the body I was using.
Yeah.
I wasn't really associated with it. But I remember as I was going up, I could see everything. I could see like the roof on the house. I could see we had a sweet gum tree, and I could see all the what we call devil balls, those little seed pods with all the sweet things on them. I could see those on the driveway, and I can see the metal strips, because we had a metal roof on the house. So I remember seeing all that detail. And I remember for just a moment, I thought, oh, that makes sense. It's like I had this big knowledge of everything. It's like what all was happening, and everything just made sense. And I don't remember what that sense is now, but it made sense. But I remember thinking, oh, wait, I'm not done with her yet. And I was talking to someone, or maybe it was myself, I don't know, but I was saying the words in my head. I'm not done with her yet. She's got to go to prom. She's got to get married. She's got to have kids. There's all this list of things that I knew that I wanted to do. And in that instant, I went right back into my body. And that feeling that you get, like when your foot falls asleep and you're tingling, I had that from head to toe. It's like my blood started circulating again or something. I don't know, but I immediately came to as, the 12-year-old self.
And so did you immediately remember that out of body experience, or did that come back, later?
No, it was literally like when I had the experience, it was literally like I was in one space at 1 second, and like I just stepped out and I was out. And then I went right back in.
Right back in.
I had that whole memory of it, but it was so easy. It was painless. It was just One minute I'm here, the next I'm there. It's like I instinctively knew how to do that. And I remember laying in bed thinking, did I dream this?
Mhm.
Just was, I don't think it
Yeah.
is so real, and it has stuck with me all these years. So it,
Do you often? I'm just and don't take this question as me trying to correlate dreams, but I'm just curious if you also remember your dreams vividly.
I do, and I know that those are dreams.
Okay.
I second guess myself because, I was 12 years old. I was trying
Right.
to figure out what was going on. But I do remember that, if I really thought it was a dream, I could tell anybody. I remember from that experience though that I couldn't.
Hmm.
I was terrified to tell anybody because I was like, they're not going to believe me, you know.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm thinking if that was a dream, it wouldn't have been nothing for me to be able to
Right.
tell.
You could have passed it off as a dream, right? You could have said, I had a dream last night that I was floating outside of the house and
Right.
thought nothing else of it. But there was some sort of a feeling of betrayal to associate it to being a dream when you knew that it wasn't.
And I knew that it wasn't. Exactly. So from
Um,
that point on, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
As I say, from that point on, though, my life did change. I was more intuitive.
Hmm.
It start like I could leave the house, and on my way back, I knew who would be there when I got home, or I knew who was calling on the phone, or I knew what song was coming on the radio. I just had this kind of sense of knowing of so many things at that age.
Hmm.
But, as life went on, I think I kind of pushed that to the side a bit and didn't let that, because, I didn't want anybody to think I was crazy. I felt
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
crazy. I didn't want everybody else thinking that too. But that changed me. So that makes, now when I look back on it, I'm like, well, then I know for sure that wasn't a dream because of how my life changed from that point
Hmm.
on.
Yeah. You know, I also have some situations where I question whether it was a dream or not. In the way that for me that I differentiate between the two for others. Like I know that it was not a dream, but the way that I explain it to people so that they'll know it's not a dream is I say I can remember the way it felt, the way it smelled, the sounds that were in the air, the like typically things that you don't get in a dream state. Uh,
Right.
and so yeah, but it is, and it's kind of an underlying motto, if you will, for this show is lifting the taboo one conversation at a time, because you're right, there is, and there, I mean, even it's a lot less than it used to be, but even today there is still a taboo associated with a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And there are some things that people are willing to consider and other things that people are still not ready to consider. And and so there's for those who have been in the community for a while, I do think that there's a caution, right, with sharing certain things openly. And so I applaud your willingness to share this part of yourself so openly with others.
It took a long time to get there. A long time. My mom, I don't think even knew what all I went through until a few months ago.
Mm.
So, I mean, it was a long road to get there. So I understand.
Do you do you feel different now, having not to keep it hidden away?
Yes, I feel like part of what I was trying to do, I felt like that I had some purpose of being
Mhm.
here. It took me years to figure out what that purpose was, but now I feel like I'm stepping into that purpose. I'm
Mhm.
being able to share what I've gone through and find people that have been through it too, or to help someone else that might be experiencing some things. Because I know just from talking to people, there's a lot more people that have
Mhm.
experienced this kind of thing than not. At least in with the
Yeah.
people that I talk to. So I feel like that's kind of been my purpose. Like I had to wait until this point.
Hmm.
I think when the rest of the world started to become ready to hear it before I could really step into who I really am and what all I've been through. So yeah.
Well, and it's kind of like I've got a friend that would say that a lot of this stuff is like, um, you're like a radio and you have to tune into the right frequency in order to pick it up. But I think the same is true for people like you, and I think sometimes others that feel like the purpose that they have is to just show people that this is the norm. There's no paranormal to it. It is the norm. And so sometimes we're operating on a frequency that other people have to be able to tune into in order to hear us. And so maybe the willingness for even from a not necessarily disclosure perspective, but even the willingness of the governments of the world to talk about UFOs openly gave enough of a validation to some people who were still reluctant to listen or hear other stories to
Mhm.
just tune a little bit more into the frequencies of those who are trying to share that this is the norm. It happens all the time. And I would probably argue that it happens to everyone on the planet at least once.
Right. Right. And I think once you experience something, I totally believe in that where you have your awakening moment. Once you experience something, you become aware that, hey, I've been living under a rock, and what
Mhm.
I believe was going on. And for me, it has been once I did experience something, it opened the door to be able to experience more
Mhm.
and more. And then I do go on paranormal investigations, um, because I want to experience more and learn what a lot of this stuff is because it's
Mhm.
real and it's out there. I don't want to be under that rock anymore
Yeah.
because the world is such a big, beautiful place that is so much bigger than what we were taught growing up.
And I hear the being experiencing more kind of once you open that doorway, if you will, or open a window maybe. And so I talk to people sometimes who say that they have the same experience over and over and over again. Like there's no diversity in the experiences that they have. And so I usually challenge them to think about, maybe they're having the same experience because they haven't learned or they haven't opened to some aspect of that experience yet. And so the same thing is happening over and over and over again, kind of like the idea of reincarnation, in that we're all living reincarnated lives because there's a lesson that we haven't learned yet. And so it's things are continuing to happen over and over again because you haven't accepted some aspect of that experience to be able to move past it and experience the next thing that's to come for you.
Right. And I think I dealt with that a little bit when I really started putting myself in the situations to experience things. Because my very and I've seen shadow people before throughout my life. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
ghosts throughout my life. But the very first experience that I had where I stood face to face with a shadow person and stared it down along with my friend and my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So there was all three of us experiencing the same shadow person. It's like for quite a while after that I was seeing shadow person after shadow person after shadow person. But it's like once I finally fully accepted that that was real, that other things like seeing an orb or seeing, some other experience or getting some of my intuition back and all that stuff. It's like, well, now I got to believe that too.
Right.
It's like that something else. I got to believe that now too. So it's been a wild ride.
Have you? Many people have, but I've also met people who have not. Have you seen the movie The Matrix?
Yes.
Okay. So there's a part towards the end of the movie where anybody who's listening who hasn't seen it yet, I apologize. I'm probably gonna ruin something. But there's a part towards the end where Neo's fighting an agent. This is the first movie, and he gets knocked down pretty hard. And they think he should run, but instead he turns to fight the agent. And Morpheus says he's beginning to believe, and I think that's like I look at that movie, The Matrix, maybe not the ones that followed it, but I look at the first one as there's a lot to be gleaned, I think, there around how we experience our reality, and that
Yeah.
there is more than what we see and interact with, and just the daily activities that we go through in our daily lives. And so the the missing though component is the belief that it can be right, the belief that spirits are real, the belief that UFOs have the potential to be real, that aliens have the potential to be real, etc., etc., etc. The belief that that is the case opens your, like, flips a switch in your mind or in your consciousness that says, hey, this person is ready to experience some of those bigger life things and start them on a different journey beyond what they just might be going through with their career or their relationship or whatever the case may be.
Right. And I remember different points in my life I was thinking, I'm ready. Show me these things. I want to see this. And it wouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the universe or whatever, or my consciousness or whatever, knew I really wasn't ready. So it took, more going through and working toward and accepting and understanding. And then all of a sudden there it is. So
yeah, it's like it happens when you're not expecting it to happen.
right. And you've really got to be in the mindset. And I think probably vibrational level and whatever all the terms are now. But I really think you've got to get yourself to a certain level to be able to experience those things, for sure.
And I think that, for me at least, when I stopped looking for the purpose of proving it to other people, that's when I started to experience the most.
Right.
Because I do think the phenomena is a very personal experience, and it's experienced by different people different ways.
And I think my biggest thing is I keep wanting to convince my husband, because he's like total non-believer in anything other. He's very scientific, and like, but you don't understand, this is science. Just a different science. You just can't figure. But once I started to let that go and just continue to do my investigations and be with like-minded people that were there for the same purposes I was, that, I don't go on an investigation anymore that I don't experience anything. And I can remember when I first started out, would be sitting there like, okay, come on. Is there something here? Is there something? And, be a long time and nothing would happen. And I honestly think it's because I wasn't ready to see or experience that. But now I can't. You can't make these things happen, so it'll probably happen again. But I don't normally go and have absolutely nothing happen anymore.
I sometimes I think about it in my own journey is like I'm reading a book that other people that I know have already read, and so I know a little bit about what comes in later chapters, and so I'm eager to get to those chapters to the point that sometimes I forget to read the chapter I'm on. And so in that same regard, I think a lot of this stuff, we're so eager to get to that next experience that we forget about the importance of the current experience.
Right. And it really does build. It's,
it does.
Start off, with just a couple of experiences, but it really, I think you have to get through one to get to the next, to the next. Like you said, reading those chapters, you have to, experience that to be able to be ready for the next, whatever the next is. Yeah, I totally get that.
Is there any experience, let's say in the realm of the mysterial, that you've not had an opportunity to experience, to be a part of?
Well, I'm sure there's a ton.
Oh yeah. I guess what we think about the mainstream things, right? We have like aliens or UFOs, Sasquatch, other cryptids, ghost or spirit experience, psychic things, like in that kind of vein of high level categories. Anything there?
Yeah, there's I have seen once what I thought was an alien looking at me through a mirror, but that was also in the middle of the night, and I'm not entirely sure that real. So I tend to say I've not experienced aliens still. I'd love to experience Bigfoot. I actually have a couple of opportunities to maybe go to places that they've seen evidence or think there might be one. So hopefully I'll get there soon and if I can experience that. I say I'm intuitive. I'm not by any means psychic. I can't control any of that. It's just every now and then something hits and I understand that. So that's a part of me I think I would like to be able to experience more in, just because I think that would help me get through life a little better. But I mean, there's so many, you've got the dogmen and the whatever. I haven't experienced any of that, but as far as like seeing full body apparitions and seeing ghosts and shadow people and orbs and being pushed, I was shoved to last weekend while on an investigation. So it's like every investigation I go, something else happens. But I mean, as far as the main paranormal investigative stuff that you do, I've experienced pretty much the gambit there, but I'm sure there's still a lot out there that I don't even know that exists until something happens.
Right. Yeah. You never know what's waiting around the next corner. Right. I was curious when you first got started doing investigations. Um, were there times that you were afraid of what you might experience?
Sure. There's, and because you don't always know what's out there. And I have been in some situations that I felt dark energies. I've never been really terrified, but there's been a couple of places like the basement at Ross Opera House.
Mm,
I won't go down there. I just have a horrible feeling about it. And it may be because I know I've got a little claustrophobia and I know it's really tight down there.
yeah.
So that might be
Yeah.
part of what's playing into that. I've never been absolutely terrified. I have been unnerved. Like when I was shoved
Hmm.
last weekend. It was at Randolph County Asylum in Winchester, Indiana. Um, I didn't fall or anything. It was just a two-handed push, and it made me take a step back. But even then, I wasn't afraid of that. It was like I felt like it was just something trying to get my attention, saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm here." Um, but I'm sure there's a lot of dark energy and some malevolent things out there that fortunately I've not experienced, um, but I believe they're there.
Yeah.
So
I also have had some experiences where I call them low vibrational beings, but it's the same type of thing. They're dark or whatever. But I've also found in my experiences that they feed off of fear, and so they exist to cause and induce fear so that they can feed off of that fear. And so the moment that you switch from being open to fearful, they've snared they've snared you, and so they're going to do everything they can to continue to cause and tumble down that fear rabbit hole so that they can continue to feed off of the fear that you're producing. So yeah, I too try to stay away from those places where I feel like they're pits of despair, so to speak, and that once you fall into them, it's hard to get out. Um, have you ever had, I think, what's called a hitchhiker, where something comes home with you?
yes, and actually, it was weird. I had, and it didn't really feel. It felt a little dark, but it still wasn't a very dark energy. But it was influencing me. I can
Mm,
remember making decisions like at work that I normally wouldn't make. That would cause a little riff or whatever. And I'm like,
mhm,
that's not me. I don't normally do these things. What's going on? And I knew that that wasn't me, so I knew something was up. And my brother, he passed away a little over a year ago. He said that he could smell that. He could
mm,
smell when an entity was like attached to you or following you or whatever. And I saw him not long after that, and he said it's not bad, but I need to get this off of you. And he did whatever it is that he does, and I could feel it pull out of my back
mm,
whenever he did that, and he wadded it up and threw it to the earth. And I didn't feel that anymore after that. I wasn't being influenced by that. So I really think somewhere in my investigation, I didn't protect myself very well, and
mhm.
something attached and came home and was influencing me. So even then, I didn't feel like it was real evil. It just felt kind of mischievous or wanting to,
Yeah,
disrupt my life a little bit.
right. Yeah, I
So,
am. We have some. I don't do very many investigations where I live now in Arizona, but even just going to the supermarket or the gas station, there's stuff literally everywhere, and so there's always opportunity for something to latch on to you and follow you home. And we actually saw the case of that. We would go to, like, my family, and we would go to like a trampoline park or something, and then we would come home after being around all those people, and we would just be at each other nonstop. And so I would go and I'd cleanse the house and I'd cleanse all of us, and then it would be fine again.
mhm.
So I actually got to the point of putting quartz crystals at each doorway. So there's one on either side of the door frame, and it creates like an energetic barrier. So when you pass across, when you pass through the threshold, anything that was there that's not supposed to be in the house gets pulled away from you and gets separated. And since putting those in, the times that we are at each other, I mean, I've got twins, so there's still going to be times when they're yelling, but the
Yeah,
times when we're at each other a lot have decreased significantly.
that's good. I know we try to every one of us on my investigation team, we investigate under Beyond This Life Paranormal. We always take crystals, have them in our pocket, wear them on
Mhm.
bracelets, whatever. And then myself and then Missy, we're Reiki masters, so we'll use
Mhm.
Reiki energy to either clear or I call it a Reiki bubble before we get started.
Yeah.
I'm like, once a Reiki bubble, and I'll come put some energy, energy barrier. Um, so you really have to do that because I know if that little thing managed to get to me and do that to me, that there's got to be bigger things
Oh yeah.
because all the same, it's just different, ends of the spectrum. So
Right. Yeah, but
I
you
don't want
know,
to bring on my back.
well, and there, there are parasites in the physical world. Why can't there be parasites in the energetic world? So,
Yeah.
um, anyways, is there, is there anything that, let's say, is there any investigation that you've ever done, that you wish you hadn't done?
I don't think so. Because
Okay.
I've always learned or experienced something from every one of them, even the ones that didn't really have anything happen.
Yeah.
Um, just I've never been in a situation yet, knock on wood, that put me to where I was terrified or really regretful for anything that I've done.
Mm.
Um, so hopefully that never happens.
Yeah. I think it sounds like you've got a pretty good, um, awareness for what is happening, with you and around you and near you. And so I think you would be aware if you were in a situation that was potentially hurtful or harmful, to you in some way, and you probably remove yourself from it. So,
Yeah, or just, I'm good at avoidance, I guess. Which thankfully I've not been in too many situations I felt I needed to avoid. But if I do get that really bad feeling like I don't want to be there, then I don't go because there's something telling me that I would have a bad experience.
so so going back just a little bit, talking about, protecting yourself when you go out to do an investigation. I've watched some, TV shows and things where, people would say, "Yeah, we just jumped in the car to hop down to this whatever to do this investigation," and then we started having all these things happen at home, and
Mhm.
I usually, armchair, couch critic will say, "Well, it's because you didn't protect yourself and you didn't shield and all this kind of stuff." So, as someone who does protect themselves when they go out and do investigation, do you have any kind of, at people who are, let's say, amateur investigators who are not doing it on the regular, any, quick little guidance things that you can pass along for how to try to protect yourself from bringing things home with you?
Sure. Just for them to understand that they're the ones with the power. Um, you can tell a spirit to leave you alone. You can protect yourself. I know I have Reiki, but you don't have to be a Reiki master to protect yourself. You can pray to whatever, spiritual, whatever direction you're going spiritually. You could say a prayer or, just envision yourself being surrounded by a white light bubble, whatever. You could just say you're not coming around me and they won't come around you or harm
Mhm.
you as you're thinking that. But you can also bring like any dark crystal, like any black tourmaline or onyx or hematite or anything like that that can absorb negative energy and keep
Mhm.
that from you, as well as using sage and crystals and quartz and selenite and all that to help cleanse it away, which is also very important when you're done to make sure that you get cleansed just in case something did get through.
Yep.
Uh, so you want to be preventative, you want to be conscious while you're going through things, and then you want to make sure you clean up afterwards. And we always tell, it sounds kind of silly, like it's grade schooly, but whenever we leave, we always say thank you, and you can't come on with me. You have to stay
Yep.
here. Just to one more step to try to protect
Right.
yourself.
It's, I also, I'm a second level, Reiki. I don't have the ability to, convey, whatever. I don't have the
Mhm.
ability to pass on what I've learned yet.
Right.
But the It's funny when we go on trips and things. We go to an Airbnb or something. Before my family comes into the house, I'll go around and cleanse every room of the house just to, because you don't know what energies are left over from the previous people who were there. And then generally, whenever we are about to leave, we're our last day or whatever, they go out and get in the car, and I'll go through and cleanse every room so we don't leave anything behind
Hmm.
energetically. So, yeah. Well, so you've talked, I think, a little about your big experience. Is there any other, kind of experiences that have changed you or shaped you in any way that you feel like sharing with the group today?
Sure, and it might ruffle a few feathers, but it's just something that I came away with whenever I, had my experience when I was 12. Because then, throughout the life, my rest of my life, I was trying to figure out why I had those experiences, and
Mm-hmm.
went down the path of Christianity and everything. And I'm not knocking Christianity or anything like this, because everybody's on their own path. But
Right.
I just feel like everybody's on their own path, and we're all trying to get to the same thing. And when I had that experience, that same thing was bigger than anything that anybody's religion. It's
Mm-hmm.
bigger than, um, and not, I don't think any of it's wrong. It's just a different path to get
Mm-hmm.
to what's bigger than that. And I think once I understood that, my whole world opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that was part of what I understood when I passed. It's just all of this stuff is great and we need to do it. It's just, it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I wish that more people would understand that and not get so pigeonholed into my religion is the only way,
Mm-hmm.
or, anything like that. Because while it's a way, it's not the end all be all. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than we
Righty.
can.
Go ahead.
Yeah. That's all. It's bigger than we can even
Yeah.
comprehend.
I mean, it's. So I think two things is number one, if you are of a different religion or if you're of no religion or whatever the case may be, um, I think that, like you said, the journey that we're all on is that the religious aspect, I think, maybe gives for those who don't like getting lost and finding their way out,
Mhm.
religion can give them a GPS, if you will,
Right.
for the path that will guide them towards the journey they need to take. But for some of us, I grew up in the church, and then when I graduated high school, I decided I would rather get lost and try to find my way out. And I don't mean lost as in like lost away from the light or any of that kind of stuff, but just I want to find my own way. All right. And I think that both methods are okay, but like you said, the problem is that it is a journey. And so if you find yourself that you stopped along the road at a peach stand and then you set up shop with your own peach stand and then you bought a house in the town where the peach stand, well, you've missed the step of continuing on your journey of seeing what is beyond whatever step or stop you're on in this particular part of your journey. And so, yeah, I think it's very much, you know, I do not have any issues with anyone who practices any religion. With the
Right.
exception of anybody who ascribes to the side of hate.
Yep.
If you ascribe to hate, then I'm sorry, but you have lost your way significantly, and you need to figure out whatever you need to figure out to get out of that rut. But for the most part, practice whatever you want to practice as long as you don't infringe on the freedoms of others.
Right.
Um, but and then I also wanted to say that I think that um, the bigger than us is at the end of the day we're human, and so all of our concepts and ideas and how we describe things are in a human way, right? Because you can't describe things in something that is beyond what you are, and so the it is bigger as the best thing that I think we as humans can do to try to describe what this thing is. But when you realize that you do have the ability to explore that bigger aspect of life outside of the confines of your human existence with out of body experiences that are maybe purposeful and not necessarily a near death experience, But beyond that way, with meditation and things like that,
Mhm.
then you can begin to understand in ways broader and bigger than what the human body is able to comprehend.
Right. And I don't think we'll ever fully understand until we're out of this human body.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Because
um,
it's like going to Rome and learning everything there is to know about
mhm.
Rome, and then coming home and trying to convey it in English. It's just maybe not a direct line for line translation or
Right.
whatever. So people aren't going to fully understand. So,
Exactly. Yep.
oh. Well, we're running just about up on time. Is there any kind of parting words of wisdom or anything that you'd like to share?
Just keep your mind open. Like I said, the world is more big and beautiful than you can ever imagine. There's a lot of things to experience, and to be patient if you can't experience them all at once,
Mhm.
because you got to be ready and just take your time, and you'll get to experience what you're supposed to experience when you're supposed to experience it, I
Right.
guess. So
Yeah.
just be patient.
Everything comes in its own time, and that may sound very cliche, but I have, in my limited, 45 years of existence, that's what I've found to be true, and I think I've talked to others who have found it to be true as well. So, well, thank
Yep.
you, Lynn, for coming on. Is there anything you'd like to plug? A podcast, your bookstore, anything you've got coming up that you'd like other people to know about?
Sure. Well, I'm an author and I write books. I write the mind-bending series of Afterthoughts, Left in the Dark, Buried Deep and Where There Is Light, and I've got Juna coming out soon. I own From the Ground Up Books in LaGrange, Kentucky, where it's not just a bookstore, but we have some metaphysical items, gifts and crystals and stuff too, as well as trying to build a haven for writers to be able to come in and learn the craft and go from concept to publishing and marketing, the whole gamut of the writing world. And then I also have the Weirdos in the Wild podcast that I do with my friend AJ Oxley, and we do something very similar to this. We talk about anything metaphysical or weird, as we call it.
Yeah.
So we've got that going for us too. So we stay pretty busy.
And is the podcast on YouTube, traditional podcast?
We podcast or we broadcast through Podbean, but it shows up everywhere that you can listen to a podcast.
Okay, awesome. All right, so be sure to check those out. And if you're either listening to this on Spotify or somewhere else, if you check the description on YouTube or on the podcast version, you'll actually find links to Lynn's things that she just mentioned there. So be sure to check those things out. So, Lynn, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. Had a fantastic conversation, and I'd love to have you back sometime.
Oh, I'd love it. So thank you. I appreciate being here.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.